Alrighty. Oh, oh, I caught my drawer. Hold on. What's up, everybody? I'm Average Joe, and welcome to another Average video. Today's video, what we're going to be doing is checking out the Anker SOLIX Home Power Panel. All right, let's get to it. Alrighty, so what is the Anker SOLIX Home Power Panel? Well, in a nutshell, it is an automatic transfer switch. I don't know if you guys saw my last video where I showed you how to install a manual generator transfer switch. Real quick, in that video, I showed you how to install a manual transfer switch where you can transfer over 8 circuits, so if the power goes out, you can use your Anker SOLIX F3800 and power those 8 circuits. So with the Anker SOLIX Home Power Panel, it's going to be real similar, however, it's going to be automatic. You don't have to install the manual transfer switch anymore. Everything will be done for you through the Home Power Panel. Now how this works right here is you still have your main panel right here. You're going to install the home panel in between a sub panel, which actually you can buy a sub panel as well. This one did come with that. But anyway, you install this in between a main panel and a sub panel, so whenever the grid goes out or power goes out for a grid outage or whatever the reason, this will automatically switch over and continue powering your sub panel. Let's say the storm passes or whatever emergency passes and the grid comes back, this is going to automatically switch you back on grid. All right, now another cool thing that you can do with this is you don't have to wait for the power to go out to go off grid basically. In the app, you can do all sorts of settings. You can do time of use, you can do self-consumption mode, and then I think there's like an emergency preparedness mode. But we'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. So that's basically what the Home Power Panel is in a nutshell. It's an automatic transfer switch that'll switch you over to off-grid mode whenever the grid goes out. You can manually do it through the app, or you can do time of use. And another cool thing with this is if you have an existing AC coupled solar system, you know, everything's gonna work just fine. You don't have to do anything special with that. This comes with a couple little things that we will attach to your solar wires, and that's about it. Everything will work as it did. All right, anyway, what we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna do a quick unboxing. We'll take a look at everything, and then I'm gonna show you how to wire everything up. Now, I'm not gonna be wiring it up to my house right over there because I've got too much stuff over there. So what I'm gonna do is wire everything up right over here on the bench. All right, here we go. I actually opened these 2 bags already. So this bag right here came with a 100 amp double pole circuit breaker, which you're going to install in your main panel. Okay. Next bag came with a ground bar that you're going to install into your sub panel, because in a sub panel your ground is always separated from the neutral. That's if you get the entire kit with the sub panel. All right, so what we have here is an Eaton 125 amp 12 space or 24 circuit indoor main lug panel. So basically this is going to be a sub panel that you would install in your house, and you would choose your circuits off of your main panel, and you would transfer those critical load items or stuff that you would want to have in a grid failure, or stuff that you would want to have, you know, to take off grid to start your off grid journey. You would select those 12 circuits and move them over to this panel right here. All right, we'll pop this open real quick. Again, this is just a sub panel. All right, we open that up, and there you go. We have an electrical sub panel. And then if we open up the door, we're gonna have our mounting screws and then some stickers to label our new circuits. All right, let me set this off to the side. And then in here we have the Anker SOLIX Home Power Panel. And right up on top we have a manual, the warranty card, and then we have a little template to mount it onto the wall. Underneath that, everything seems to be packaged pretty good. And then underneath here, we have some more stuff. So it looks like we have our cable to connect the F3800 to the Home Power Panel. All right, so we got 3 different sets or 3 different CT clamps here. These are current sensing transformers, okay? These 2 right here are gonna go on your main electrical wires coming in from the grid. These are gonna basically be monitoring how much power you use and sense whenever the grid goes out. This one right here is if you have an existing solar system, you're going to attach this onto one of those AC wires right there, which actually I don't think I can mimic that. But we'll see, we'll see whenever we get there. And then, like I said, we have our cable that connects to the F3800 and the home power panel right here. And then finally we get some mounting screws, which looks like we have some wood mounting screws or concrete mounting screws. And then finally the brackets that are going to go to the wall, and then the brackets that are going to be mounted onto the home power panel. And I think that's it. All right, so what we have here is the Anker SOLIX home power panel. We have an on and off button, a Wi-Fi Bluetooth button, and then we have 4 LED indicators for grid, power station 1, power station 2, and then backup load. So you can actually connect up to 2 F3800s to this. On the left-hand side, you're going to get a sticker with all the specifications right here, and then you're also going to get a double pole circuit breaker right here, which is a 40 amp circuit breaker. And then we will flip it over to the other side, and you're also going to have another circuit breaker on this side. So if you have 2, depending on which port you have it plugged into down here, this is basically the breaker for the Anker SOLIX F3800. And then you also have an emergency stop button right here. Hit that button and everything will shut down. And then on the bottom side, you can plug into 2 power stations. It doesn't matter which one you plug it into if you only have one. But again, you can plug in up to 2. And then it looks like you have a couple places right here for knockouts. And actually on the left hand and right hand side, there is a place for knockouts for your AC wiring as well. And then on the top side, you have your Wi-Fi antenna. So whenever you're all up and running, you're going to flip up the antenna for better signal. All right, and then right here is a removable cover, which we will take off real quick, which is held on by 4 number 2 Phillips head screws. We remove that cover right here. This is where you're going to connect all of your AC wiring, so your grid input on this side, and then your backup loads on this side. And finally, right down here is where you're going to connect up your CT clamps, which I just showed you, L1, L2, and finally solar. All right, so there you go. That looks nice and easy. All right, so here's just a quick little overview of everything sitting out here right on the table. Now keep in mind, this isn't going to be exactly how you install everything, but it'll be pretty close. The only things that we're not going to be doing is installing conduit, which you would definitely want to do. All right, first thing we got right here is going to be our simulated main electrical panel in our house. Okay, and one little quick note I wanted to mention is the supplied 100 amp double pole circuit breaker, that they sent. It doesn't actually go with this panel that I have, so I'm going to be using a 30 amp double pole circuit breaker that I already had. But the kit does recommend you use a 100 amp circuit breaker. Right off to the right, we got our main electrical conductors, and I didn't have any green wire, so I just had to throw some tape on there for my ground. We're going to be wiring those up to the double pole circuit breaker right here, and we're going to be coming out of the bottom of the panel through one of these knockouts right here. And then we're going to be going straight over to the Anker SOLIX home power panel. So obviously next we have the Anker SOLIX home power panel. Again, the other side of those wires are going to come in through a knockout right here and wire up to the grid input right here. And then after that, we're going to be connecting up to the backup loads right here with these wires right over here. We're going to connect to those, come out through a knockout right over here, and then go straight over to the sub panel right over here. And then finally, we got the sub panel right here that came with the kit. Again, the other side of those wires right over here are going to come from the Anker SOLIX home power panel. We're going to go through a knockout right down here and then connect up to the main electrical loads right over here. And we will also install our ground bar. I haven't decided which side we're going to go on, but most likely that side right over there. And we're also going to remove that green bonding screw right there because we are adding the ground bar right here. Alrighty, so let's get to it. All right, before we get started, of course, the disclaimer is obviously if you've never done any sort of electrical work, make sure you hire a licensed electrician. All right, so that's going to be step 1. Step 2 is going to be before you even remove the cover from the panel here, you're going to turn off the main power up here through the main circuit breaker, which I already did for this simulation. 3 would be remove the cover. Step 4 is we're going to remove one of the knockouts right down here so we can wire over to the home power panel. And obviously choose the one that works best for you. And since this is just a demonstration, I'm going to knock out this 3/4 inch hole right here. And to do that, we're just going to hit it with a screwdriver, pop it in, and then go to the inside and wiggle it to pull it out. All right, that's all we're going to do right here. And the same thing for the home power panel. You actually get two different options right here and then one on the side. This is basically the same thing. I'm just going to hit it with some needle nose pliers, pop it in just like that. There we go. And then same thing for the sub panel here. We're just going to choose a knockout that we want to use and knock it out. All right, like I said earlier, this is not a real installation. However, in a real installation, you would actually install conduit from one box to another. Since this is a demonstration, I'm just going to run wires from this box to this box through the PVC fittings right here. The reason I put those in here for right now for this demonstration is because we could have some sharp edges on the metal boxes, and the PVC will help protect the wire. Alrighty, now we're going to start wiring everything up, and the wire that you always install first is going to be your ground wire. So I'm going to take my ground wire, install it right over here on my ground bar. We're going to come out of the box, over and up into the home power panel to the ground lug right here. And I do have that wire marked with green on both ends. All right, next wire we're going to do is the neutral wire. And since this is a main panel right over here, all of my grounds and neutrals are on the same bar. So we're going to go right above the ground wire right over here. Basically take the exact same path. However, we're going to go up to the neutral connection right up here. Next two we're going to do obviously is our two hots. Black is going to be L1 and red is going to be L2. Over here on the double pole circuit breaker right here, the upper one is going to be the black for L1 and the lower one is going to be red for L2. Alright, so as you can see, we have L1, L2, neutral, and ground hooked up in the home power panel. And then over in the main panel, we've got L1, L2, our neutral, and our ground. Alright, next thing we're going to do is install our CT clamps. Alright, so at the top of your main electrical panel, this is where you're going to install your CT clamps, making sure you have the arrow facing towards the circuit breaker panel. So black is going to be L1 or CT1 and red is going to be L2 or CT2. And these are super easy to install. Basically, you just wrap them around the wire and clamp them. That's pretty much it. So all right, so that's CT1 and this is going to be CT2. Alright, so since I didn't use big enough pieces of PVC conduit here for the connector to fit through, I'm actually going to remove this connector so I can put the wires through there. So if you do that, make sure you put these wires back in the same position. Alright, now what we're going to do is plug our CT ports into L1 and L2 based on what we did in the main panel. And of course, these only go in one direction. Push those down. And this is just a smaller flathead screwdriver. All right, and then L2. And of course, if you had an existing AC coupled solar system, you would install the other CT clamp right here. All right, next thing we're going to do is install the ground bar, and typically there's a few different places you can put it, basically on the left or right side. Sometimes you can put it down here towards the bottom. I think I'm just going to install mine right over here, and all you have to do is line up the holes right here to the holes on the back of the panel. So we'll just line that up. And normally with other panels that I've worked with, both holes typically line up with two holes, but this one only lines up with one. So I guess we'll just leave that. All right, next thing we're going to do is remove the green ground bond screw because we just installed a separate ground bar. All right, now we're going to start wiring the home power panel to the sub panel right over here. It's going to be basically the same thing as we wired from the main panel to the home power panel. We have our L1, L2, neutral, and ground. Those wires are going to be connected here, going through this piece of conduit right here, and then into the bottom side of the panel right over here. Wires are going to go up and then loop around to the top side, and then our ground is going to be right over here, which we just installed. Our neutral is going to go to this lug right here. L2, which is going to be red, is going to go to this lug, and then L1, which is black, is going to go to this lug right here. Since this wire is kind of long, I'm going to loop it back around to the bottom side and go through one of these screws right down here. If we were using bigger wires, I would definitely use the main lug right up here. Next wire is the neutral. And then L1 and L2. All right, so we got everything connected. So main power comes from this circuit breaker right here. We kind of wrap around, go over, and then into the home power panel, and then out of the home power panel, again out of these, and then into the sub panel right over here. And then if we back over here, you can see we have our two CT clamps, L1 and L2, which again are connected or clamped up there at the top of the main panel, L1, L2. And I did just want to mention here real quick, again, if you have an existing AC coupled solar system, you would wrap this CT clamp around one of those wires. We'll just say, for example, your AC system was coming in through these circuit breakers right here. You would just clamp to one of the wires. That's basically it. And then again, the other side is going to go in the home power panel. Okay, that's pretty much it. But we can't do that right here for our simulation. All right, there is one last thing I wanted to mention with the critical loads panel or the sub panel right here is obviously I didn't wire in a bunch of cats in here. I just wired in one cat, and that cat is right here. Yeah, I just wired in one circuit to a 20 amp outlet right there just so we can make sure everything works correctly. All right, the next thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to put all the covers back on, and then we're going to power everything up and commission the home power panel and take a look at the app, and then we're going to start testing it out to make sure it works correctly. All right, next step is going to be connecting the power station to the home power panel through the supplied cable. And again, this only goes one way. There's an indentation right up here, which is on the top right up here. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. All right, and that locks in. And if you want to pull that out, you have to slide this to the left. Just like that. Nice. That's kind of a nice looking cable. All right, anyway. And the other side's going to go on the power station right over here. Oh, there we go. Next step is flipping up this breaker on the side of the home power panel. All right, we can go back to our main electrical panel and we can turn on the main circuit breaker up here, and then our circuit breaker that goes over to the home power panel. Here we go. All right, we just turned it on and you saw the grid LED light turn on first. The power station 1 LED went on and now it just went off. And then our backup load LED light is on. And our buttons over here also have LED lights in them, and those are blinking. All right, so now we're going to connect it with the app real quick. So we're going to select it, and it says bring my phone closer to the device. I don't know how close I need to bring it, but we'll bring it right over here. And then we need to select our Wi-Fi. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Firmware upgrade, we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll do a system self-test. Okay, I'm gonna just let that go and then I'll be right back. All right, now we're gonna take a look at the app, and it did take me a couple of minutes to do all the firmware updates, etc. So anyway, on here on the app, this is going to be your home screen. You can see if you have solar connected, that'll be up here on your top left side. On the top right side is going to be how much you're pulling from the grid. And if we scroll down just a little bit, you can see the SOLIX F3800 right here basically in the middle of the screen, and we're sitting at 93% state of charge. We're actually recharging it right now. If you look over here on the side of the house, you can actually see it's a utility pole. We're actually pulling from the grid, going through the main panel, which is right over here, and then we're going through the home power panel, and then from there we're going out the bottom side over here to the power station right off to the side. And our home load is roughly 190 watts, and if you look right over there, I've got two 100-watt light bulbs plugged in. One is plugged into the main panel over here, and then the other one is plugged into the sub panel over here. I could show you that real quick. I'm going to turn off the sub panel light. All right, that one shuts off over there, and shut that off. This is just for my example to show you power outages and stuff like that. If we go down just a little bit further, you can see earnings, your CO2 savings, if that matters to you, and then your kilowatt hour production. That's actually if you have solar, which we do not, because I can't simulate that right now because I would have to have an AC coupled solar system. You can track this by day, week, month, and year. Go back to day, and then of course you can also click on these little individual icons. So solar, your home load, your battery storage, and then of course the grid right there. And then if you scroll down just a little bit more, it's going to give you a little bit more information down there on the bottom. Okay, so there is a couple different things that you can do in here. Right now we're in time of use mode. I did go in here just to play around a little bit just so I knew exactly what I was even looking at. But right here in the center you can see your battery reserve. So if you're doing self-consumption mode or time of use mode, you can kind of prioritize that based on your needs. Of course, they have some recommended settings. You can see right here we have a self-consumption mode, which is basically off-grid mode. You would want to use that if you had solar connected. And then you have time of use mode, which we're using at the moment. And then right below that you have a manual backup power. That's basically if you want to make sure the battery is charged, you can set that up to recharge from the grid at certain times of the day. And I'll click on that and then you can set your time up in there, but we're not going to do that right here. If you go into utility rate plan or your time of use plan, in here is where you're going to set up all of that if you get charged different rates basically for different times of the day. And I did simulate that. I have a super off peak time, which we're on right now. And then I have a peak time and then an off peak time. I just made these all up in here. Again, you can do whatever you'd like. And then right below that, you can set your prices per kilowatt hour that you get charged. So anyway, that's how you do all of that up in here. Anyway, back to the home screen, and we're going to start testing some stuff out. And honestly, I think the only thing that I can really test is a grid failure or a simulated grid failure. All right, so whenever I flip off the main circuit breaker over here, the left light bulb up there is going to go off and the right one should stay on because that's going to be powered from here, which is being powered from the Anker SOLIX F3800 right over here. All right, so let's just get started and let's see how quickly this goes. All right, so in 3, 2, 1. All right, left light bulb went off, right one stayed on. So over here on the app, you can see the grid went away, and now our home load dropped down to 105 watts, which is basically the 100-watt light bulb that we have over there. All right, so that all worked as it should. Let's go ahead and flip the main breaker back on, and I think what's going to happen is this basically has to sync back up to the grid, and once it does that, then it'll turn us back on to grid. All right, so let's do that right now. All right, that took 26 seconds for this to flip back over. And you can see the grid came back on over here. Now we're drawing 208 watts because it's got 2 light bulbs on over there. And now we started recharging the F3800 right over here. So all of that is working out as it should. And I guess while we're in here, we can try the self-consumption mode. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're just basically going to go off grid. So both light bulbs should stay on. All right, there was a little tiny flicker over there. All right, so our home load is 177 watts. And how much are we drawing over here? Yep, 177 watts. All right, so that worked just fine. We're gonna go back over to time of use mode. Alrighty, well there you go. I guess I really can't do too many simulations other than flipping the main breaker on the main panel to simulate a grid outage. And how many times do you want to see me do that? Probably not too many. Other than that, all the other stuff seems to be working as advertised. The time of use works, the manual backup power works. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of other stuff I can do in here. I don't have an AC coupled solar system, so I can't really test that. But other than that, everything seems to be working fan-freaking-tastic. Oh, and actually there is one other thing I was going to do real quick is what happens if you do have all of this installed and you want to take your Anker SOLIX F3800 with you traveling. If you disconnect it from the home power panel, is everything in your sub panel going to shut off? I don't know. Let's find out. So I'm just going to flip the main breaker right over here. Should see it right over there. If the light bulb shuts off, that means everything's going to shut off. Okay, so no, it doesn't. You can actually disconnect it right here, and the light bulb is still powered on. Okay, so that is good. All right, you come back from vacation and you want to plug it back in. We'll just do that real quick. Plug it in, and we'll flip on our breaker. And that should just take a couple of seconds for it to flip on. It might have already done it, actually. Yeah, we're already connected. I think the only thing that you can do to shut that off, oh, you know what we could do is shut off the RSD. Let's do that. All right, that shuts everything down quickly. The Anker SOLIX is still powered on. All right, we're gonna hit that and see what happens. I might have to manually turn it on from there. Yeah, I think we have to turn it back on right here. Yep, that's it. All right, so if you hit the rapid shutdown button, the home power panel is going to shut down, and therefore everything that is connected to it, like the sub panel, all the circuits that you would have in your house would also shut down. I did notice that the power station was still powered on, but I don't think any of that matters since everything is shut down. Alrighty, well I think that's going to be the end of my demonstration because I don't really think there's a whole lot else I could show you right now. So if anybody's looking for the Anker SOLIX home power panel, you can get this all by itself or in a kit. Make sure you check out the links down below. If you thought this video was helpful, don't forget to like that smash button on your way out, and I will see you on the next. I don't know if I'm going to open this quite yet or not. Yeah, maybe I will.